Okay.
Oh, hold on, PJ. We've got a phone call coming in here. Let's 2 seconds.
Okay. Is it going to be?
Hello, you're through the books, boys. You've got Dean and PJ on the line. Who's calling?
Oh, who's this? Who is this?
A secret. It's a secret.
It's a secret. Oh, good. What? This is unusual. It's a secret.
So who have we got? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Elma Linz Kanefield, and I'm a psychotherapist and a life coach, and I work exclusively with performing artists. So if the secret caller is a performing artist, I'd love to speak with you. I just published a book called Hamlet's Mirror, Reaching Your Performance Potential, based on the belief that Hamlet mused, it is our artists, after all, who hold the mirror up to life, reflecting everybody.
Wow.
Okay. Well, interestingly, by great coincidence, we were just talking about the book, and I've got my lovely copy right here. So the timing, perfect timing strikes again. Tell me more about the title then. So was Hamlet's Mirror always going to be the title, or was that like a last minute thing?
It was.
I love the title.
Thank you. Yeah. It wasn't a last minute thing, but once upon a time, the title was The Diva Syndrome, which is in the book.
Yeah.
And the Diva Syndrome is what prevents artists or anybody from reaching our performance potential. But it was such a downer. I used to go on ships and lecture about the Diva Syndrome, and halfway through my lecture and what I said, I heard people were snoring. It was so depressing.
Oh.
So I reevaluated, because I thought it was a great title. I reevaluated and put it in the book in its appropriate place.
Yeah, and it is still in the book. And I think it is interesting because it's an important thing to think about, right? The Diva Syndrome is something that will affect performers, and I suppose there's a reason why you wanted that as the title originally, dealing exclusively with performers. Why is that, by the way? So obviously you've got your training. You could deal with anyone, I suppose. What made you really want to focus on actors and vocal artists and musicians and things? What was the real inspiration to work with those types of people?
Me. I wanted to be a performer once upon a time.
Right.
And I had an experience where I was about to sing and everything seemed in its place, and I was ready, and I opened my mouth and nothing would come out. And I went to doctors, and boards were fine, and nobody could help me. Nobody really understood the psychology of the performing artist. And I left the profession, but I went back to school, and of course there were no courses in that, but I studied and figured out. And in St. Louis, had some of my treatment population were artists, and I decided I'm going back to New York and open a practice exclusive to performers. And I thought, I'd have a lot of competition, but nobody, this was in the 80s, had this kind of practice. So I don't know if it was timing or what it was. And then I had the opportunity to start the counseling services at the Juilliard School. they had never had a counseling services, so
Right.
very busy.
Wow. Okay.
But you
So
find something, that other people weren't doing, and you find people that you
a
could
niche,
help
yeah.
that weren't getting help. So that's great.
Yeah, it was, it's been just a really, really rewarding career.
Great.
Well,
That's
when we
amazing.
go through the book, we get to see a little bit about the unique struggles that performers face. There's this "I am what I do" idea that actors have, that they almost get drawn too much into the roles, and we see that some examples given of that affecting their relationships in real life. And then there's the dancers, dance through the pain, push your body to the limits, kind of thing. And yeah, I suppose that I never realized it before, but performers do actually have a unique set of problems, and so I suppose it's really good to have something that can help them. And we should say, with this book,
Totally.
it is designed to help them. There's various reflections you can fill in as you go through it, and examples that you can maybe relate to. And I suppose the idea is that by reading this, it will help you to reach your potential as well. Have you heard have people told you that it's helped them?
They have.
Good.
I've gotten responses that have been very touching. One of the responses that really surprised me was I told them about me and what had happened to me and how I found, quote, my performance potential in my work. And I do that in various ways. And that seemed to allow readers to trust the information in the book as much as my clinical credentials. And that really surprised me.
Because they could relate to you as a person, as a co-performer, right? I think that gave it a yes.
I guess so. But I was so young.
Yeah.
I think relatability really helps. Experience, expertise. You've got your knowledge. That's one thing, but having that relatability is what the ordinary person is actually gonna find more attractive, almost to open up. I think so. It's great that you have that as well.
Yeah.
So the little reflections, those are interesting. I like going through and thinking, here's an example of one. How often do you betray yourself for adoration and promotion? Well, I can be a little bit vain, so I think that I'm maybe quite high on that one, But it was interesting to go through them, and I'm not much of a performer. I do a little bit of dancing and a little bit of art, but I don't really perform. I make music. I don't perform it live. But it's interesting to even see a few little things that were helping me as I read through the book, and I thought, okay, yeah, I do this one, or I'm not comfortable expressing myself in this particular way, or whatever it is, and I. Even as I wouldn't consider myself a performer, but I still took a few things away from it, I think, which is good. So I do think that, anyone could read it and still benefit from it,
I hope so, because it really took me 30 years to write this book.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is research. And I just learned so much about myself.
Yeah.
And the reflections, hopefully, really illuminate the concepts and that are being talked about. I don't see it as a book that you can sit down and read right through, because it's so introspective and subjective. But people have said, boy, I sat down and I read it right through. I mean,
Right.
Well, I did for the purposes of review. I have to obviously read a lot of books per month, so I did read it right through. But I felt instinctively that wasn't the best way to do it.
yes,
And I felt you're better maybe taking a little bit at a time, a couple of the reflections and thinking about it and taking it away. And if you're someone that is a performer and that wants to get help from the book, I would recommend going through it a little bit more slowly and
Yeah.
meditating on it more,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So tell us a little bit about the performer personality profiles. So you list 4. There's this triangle, this kind of drama triangle of problems. And we've got the problem-ridden performer, the pugnacious performer, the promising performer. And those are 3, areas where you're getting somewhere, but you're having some problems. And then we have the potential realized performer. And I suppose that's the one that we want to be, right? That's where we've dealt with our issues and our potential is being realized and we're on the right track. Do you want to open up a little bit about those, or how you kind of came up with this and put those together?
Well, those really became apparent over the 30 years. The first 2, the problem-ridden and the pugnacious, are founded on really bad energy. Performer, not performer. Have you ever been around anybody who you've just
Of course, yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, you back that, yeah.
okay, that's those 2 categories. And the problem-ridden performer is just full of fear and will avoid and flee anything. The pugnacious performer, and this I found really interesting, will be very successful for a while.
Right.
Oh,
Very
okay.
motivated, driving, because he or she will step on anybody.
Yes.
But eventually, same result,
It doesn't last. Yeah.
because the energy is so toxic.
Yeah, you can't fight all the time either. You can't be like
Yes.
stepping the whole time. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And I guess, predominant feelings of that person is anger.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
And that's not the right feeling for long-term success, I suppose.
No.
Well, that's not what people want to see the whole time, right? They would flee as well when watching anger. Yeah.
I mean, how many people do you know like that?
Well, I don't spend enough time with them. That's the thing, right?
Well, that's the thing. We don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the promising performer shifts that energy, and I call it harmonic energy. And they're fairly successful people. I mean, you see them in orchestras, corps de ballets, reoccurring parts on television, in film. You can identify them pretty easily. The challenges for it sounds funny, for the promising performer is that they're too giving in 2 ways. They rationalize a whole lot and settle. Tolerate. They don't really look after their own needs. Fearing, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want people not to like me. And they're very altruistic, which sounds, oh, how lovely, such a nice fellow, such a nice person. However, this altruism is often in the service of being needed and loved. And when the need stops, they get very, very hurt. Oh, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And they forfeited their careers often, oh, you take this spotlight, or there's a balance. So when you do things really for yourself, and it looks like for other people, it'll really hold you back. The thing to do is be real. Live your life in the moment, almost as an ad lib, and be real.
There's value in authenticity. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you all have to do it, or you wouldn't have such a successful podcast.
Well, that's true, and we just come on and we just be ourselves, and
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the way to go.
And
I think it's often, yeah. I'm just saying, I think it's often the embarrassment of some people that they don't want to. Oh, I need to be perfect, and I don't want to fail, and it's embarrassing about the way I am. So I'm in every podcast episode, I am ridiculous in some part, at least, maybe not the whole part. Yeah, I don't really care anymore. I used to care though when I was also 18, 19, and when I've dared to say that. Yeah. You just got to be yourself. Yeah.
You just have to be yourself and stay in the moment. And when you think of, oh, I need this outcome, I need this result, you're so far ahead of yourself that you kind of lose yourself. And that's trouble.
Well, Emma, one last question. Is there going to be another book, or is this, you've put everything into this and this is all you wanted to write?
Well, that's how it started.
You see, it always starts like that, and then you get the bug and you want to write something else.
I have learned so much since the book's been published, which is
right.
It's amazing. So my answer to your question is I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good answer. And the last question we ask everyone, but before I ask it to you, I'm gonna just ask you something else. Would you like to give us a plug, tell people where they can get the book, or how to find your website, or something like that?
Well, you can get the book on Amazon, and I'm such a new author. I'm really bad.
Everything's on Amazon anyway, so at least you can get it there.
And you can get it at my web. You can look it up on my website, which is Elma Linz, Linz, Kanefield.com.
Cool. And we'll put a link to that anyway in the show notes. Elma, thank you so much for calling in. Have a great rest of your day. But the final question we ask every author, this gives me a little idea about what you like to read as well as write. If there's one existing book that you wish you had been the person to write, what would it be? Right now, it's, oh God, I just reread it. The story of the, what's it called? The story of the woman. So good. It's a novel. The story of the woman who lives in the swamp. What book am I thinking of? I just read it.
Swamp.
And
intriguing plot.
She was accused of murder.
Oh. And
readers, listeners, help me. And she had a boyfriend who was the only person who ever really, her parents left her, and she lived in this lone house.
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but if anyone knows, let us know. booksboys@hotmail.com or on Instagram.
Come
So
on.
for the first time, you've given the show a riddle to solve before the New Year. So if you solve before the New Year's, there'll be special treats, everyone.
The
So
minute
what's this?
it goes
Set
off,
in a
I'll
swamp.
think of the name. It was made into a movie, which wasn't as good as the book. So
Yeah,
I
usually is the
reread
case.
the book. Well, this
Well, don't
is,
worry about it. It's a
We've
riddle.
got a riddle.
it's really good.
Well, you've
It's-
reread
So
it, so it must be.
can anyone solve it? Yes, no. What
it's
this
so
story is, it's
beautiful
set in a swamp.
that I'd love it to be made into an opera.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Oh,
cool.
wow. That's interesting. Okay. You have that feeling.
If I
Well,
could of the name of it.
Elma,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining us. We loved the book,
Yeah.
and thanks for your time.
Thanks for the
and thanks
riddle
for
as well.
calling in.
Oh, well,
Yeah, so interesting, a very interesting theory as well. So I kind of feel it can also work, even though you wrote this for performers, for also non-performers, so a bit about them, because everyone has to perform in bits, teachers, policemen, So I feel you've done a good thing. Thanks so much for calling.
well, thank you, and
Yeah.
a very happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year
to yourself.
to you too. Yeah. All right.